Hello and welcome to part 6. I don't know about you, but I always feel much better after a decent haircut. Now you may have noticed in the previous 5 parts we've talked about a lot of things, we haven't really talked about trading techniques, as in how to make money out of this thing that goes up and down, and that's what we're going to get on to now. So let's have a look at this. I'd recommend going to Baby Pips, and I don't really care if you've already been trading a lot or so forth. As far as I'm concerned, go to Baby Pips and make sure you know everything. Baby Pips looks kind of like this. So you've got, it's a start. You can start with preschool, kindergarten, and they just cover everything. Now, if you're serious about trading, just do this. Just do this, and skip the bits you already know, because there will be things here that you don't know. There's a lot here. Okay, so I started by doing this when I moved to foreign exchange from futures and options. I started by doing this, and so I recommend that you do exactly the same. So after Baby Pips, you should do some further education, and you should expect to pay for it. Now there are brokers and such that offer free courses, but they're not going to teach you how to beat them and take their money. They're going to teach you how to feel confident enough to trade and lose money with them. Think about that. That's how this business works. There are other people out there, but I obviously recommend us, Mayfair Trading and Mentoring. Myself and my partner Lewis have 60 plus years between us of how to trade and how to stay alive in this horrific trading environment. MayfairMethod.com, and there's a Discord link. We have an active visitors channel which is free. Here's a little snapshot of our visitors text. Mayfair is Lewis, my partner, and you see that he is particularly busy today, but previously I've been as well, and one of us is nearly always monitoring this chat and joining in. Here's the Why I Like It Here channel, and these are people who really quite like it here. I mean, I'm literally posting stuff that they have in the past told us about what their experience with us. Now let's just see exactly what it looks like in the subscribers only channel. There are lots of them. Okay, you have a crypto chat, you have one for prop firm traders, which if you join us, you should join this. You should request to get access to this one because there's lots of tips there. Foreign exchange, musings, there's all kinds of different areas, and there's an entire also education section which you'll get used to. Right, that's enough plugging and hype. Let's talk about techniques. First one I'm going to go through is called an inversion, or at least I call it that. I don't really care what anyone else calls it. Let's have a look at one here. So looking across here, I'm looking for particular areas. I'm going to highlight this one. If you notice here, it breaks through this level and then it struggles to go back down, and it stays above it. And then once it does break back down, it stays below it. And once it stays above it again, it stays, and then breaks down below it. And that's what I call an inversion. It's almost like a mirror image where you can see a bit of symmetry in what's going on. And when the whole thing finally breaks down, it still doesn't really over here. And it's still kind of true, but it eventually breaks and off we go. And we haven't revisited that area. Now, foreign exchange is fractal, which means you can find these on different time frames. This is a daily time frame, and the longer time frames are way more reliable. You can find these on the shorter time frames, but they won't be as good, won't be as reliable. So use them as you wish. And what this does is gives you an idea of bias. So once you're above this line, you know that you should be biased that it's going to stay above it. So next time it visits, it's more likely to bounce off it than it is to go straight through it. Now, obviously this doesn't work all the time, but you can see how many times it has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times it's approached the bias line and fallen away. Right, so we talked about inversions, which help give you a bias. If you have a bias, you know whether you want to buy or sell in this particular area, then you are halfway to success. If you aren't really too sure, then why are you even trading? And now I want to talk about something called the volume tool. It's available on TradingView in this area here, in the projections area. If you go down to fixed range volume profile, and then typically what you should do is draw it from the highest point recently to the lowest point recently, or vice versa. And this gives you the relative volumes at various prices. And obviously this helps a great deal. Let's see the way it works. Look at this great spike in volume here. And if we just continue the line from it, So on its way down, it was very important that that line was, and check out what the price action gets to. Over here, as it reaches that line again, boom, a bounce off that high volume area. So that's a clue for all you guys. There's another one here. Let's just move this to here and see what happens here. Now what happens here is that it comes through but bounces back under again. Now, so this thing isn't like all things in foreign exchange. It's no golden silver bullet or whatever we're going to call it, but it's helpful. And that does become important. If you look at what's happened here, you've ended up going a certain amount above it, and then the pullback is a certain amount below it. So it's still an important level. You get the idea. I mean, I could carry on drawing these as they go across. This one, for example, here is the point of control for the whole thing, and you can see it's sensitive here. The price vibrates around it here, drops away. And then once it reaches it again, it vibrates around it again, and it becomes almost a new inversion in this area. Okay, so that's that one done. Now you may be thinking, oh, I don't really like foreign exchange, but here's one in Bitcoin. You have two inversions here, and I'm going to show you a third, even more interesting one in just a second. So after this high is reached, we go zooming straight through it, straight back to the touch, and then it stays above it, zoom straight through, back to almost the touch. I mean, I would say that crypto is a lot harder than FX, which is why we recommend FX, but it's still exhibiting very similar properties, and you can see that here it touches, here it does the zigzag around, here more zigzagging, and so on and so forth. Let me show you the even more interesting one if we sort of zoom out a bit and I switch on this one. So we have talked a lot of times about the value line in crypto, certainly in Bitcoin, because this is a real thing now, Bitcoin, and the professionals are in, and they think anything under the value line is cheap and everything above it is expensive. And the value line is pretty much an inversion here. You can see exactly the effect it has, and it is very, very important line. And basically what we're setting at the time now is that anything above that line is a sale for the big lads, the banks and so forth. And anything below they were buying. And if you come and look at the Discord with us, we'll explain exactly why that should be. So you're probably thinking, well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. How can I tell the difference between the two? Well, I'm going to show you something here, which I swear I didn't actually set this up. But I'm going to go back to one of those examples and show you how you can tell which type it is. Now, obviously, this isn't 100% reliable either. But if you've got two things that aren't 100% reliable and they're both saying the same thing, then that's better than only one of them saying that thing. And if you find a third one or any other reason, then you're actually into a decent trade here, most likely. Don't forget, they can still go wrong. But the point is you make more from the ones that you get right than the ones where you lose a little bit. Let's look at exactly the same example as we looked earlier. We look at the first one where we have the volume spike indicated here, and then we just carried this line on to see what happened, and we noticed that it pinged straight off it the first time. So wasn't that interesting? And I swear I didn't set this up. I just thought, well, let's go and have a look at the price action nearer that time. So if we just draw a little line here, the actual area we're interested in, and when's that? Around the 21st of April 22. And let's look at it on a different timescale. Let's look at it on the hourly to see what we get. So we've got to go back quite a way to see that first hit. And it's here. Here's our line from earlier. And then we're going to expand this and look at this in detail, because what we have here is a classic change of character. And I'm going to explain exactly what that is. So let's get rid of that. We know we're dealing in the right area. So you've got a high here, and then you've got a choice of lows, but the classic one is the low here. So this is an immediate reaction downwards from the high within an hour. Okay, now the other thing to look at here is it is in, so this is Australia and Japanese yen, and it is during their daytime. So this is another helpful thing. Then you get a lower high, then a lower low, and that's called a change of character. So if you were to draw it, it would look like this: up, down, up not as much, further down. And that is your change of character. Obviously on the downside it works a different way round. In that case you would get a drop, a rally, another attempt to break which fails, and then a higher high. So those are the two things you're looking at. They look like a W and an M, crooked W. So we've got the crooked M here. So this is a change of character, which is sometimes shortened to CHOCH. And then after that, you're looking for an opportunity. You're wondering, will it break out? Because you don't just say, right, there's a change of character, I'll sell it here. What you need is perhaps a third piece of information, which is the break here. And it's actually almost textbook, this one. And again, it's a coincidence that it breaks the lower low, retests it, and then we're off to the races. So that is what a change of character can do. And that would be 3 items of information. You've got the high volume node where you're expecting a bounce, you've got the CHOCH, and then you've got the break and retest. I mean, there are 3 things there which could have helped you. Now, obviously, you might just miss it or whatever, but you're still in a much better state than you would be just going off the high volume node on its own. Okay, so there are 3 sort of techniques which are going to help you. And if you want to know any more from us at Mayfair, then it's best you subscribe. I'll see you in the next episode.